no numbers, there's no pictures, there's no videos, there's no gameplay. I don't like it.
Yo, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope everyone's having a good day so far. And today, Freemers, we are back with another Palia lore reading. This time around, I'm not too far into the Palia expansion, Elderwood. I've still got, I think, a ways to go. I've only played, I think, a few hours of the new gameplay. But I wanted to dive into some new lore that was added to the game within a few of the quests. So just to start, we're going to dive into when you go into that new temple area with Sabira. And basically, we're going to go over a bunch of records, and there's a lot of interesting lore within these records. There's new characters, there's new story. I love the lore. I think I do love the lore of Palia because it's super interesting. It's a little unique, and it's a lot darker. If you read the lore, it's not as cozy as people would like to believe because, you know, if you're oblivious to the lore, you don't read this stuff, you'd be crazy not to. I mean, dude, like, if you're just living a blissful life of cozy in Palia, and you're not reading this lore, the lore is a lot darker, because there's, I want to say the big thing behind the lore is there's a lot of cover-up. There's a lot of, like, the lore goes deep into, I would say, like, what happened before the humans disappeared. Like, what happened before everything. And there's a lot of cover-up with, like, flow. There's a lot of cover-up with everything. It's crazy. It's crazy lore. I've gone into a lot of lore on this channel. I feel like I am the Palian lore master, if I do say so myself. But yeah, go ahead and on the channel, I have a lot of different lore coverage, a lot of different stories I've read. But we are going to dive into these records, and these are the records of Aurus. Aurus is kind of the newest character in Palia. There's a lot of other different characters that were mentioned in these lore books, but we're just going to go ahead and read through these, give them a good old read, and go from there. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this. So, to start, we're going to go with record number 1 from the Desk of Aurus. So this is where our story starts. Ever since I discovered how to synthesize Cosmoflow, the money has been coming non-stop. Everything I ask for, I am granted. It's hard not to let this sort of power get to my head. The king himself came to visit the other day to test out the new Hydra potions. If something had gone wrong, I was responsible for a king growing tentacles or a second head. So we're going to keep reading here, but I just want to mention this is Hydra potions. So I think we're going to see those potions. Tamala is going to be selling those. I haven't gotten to that point in the expansion, so I don't know too much about these potions, but that is, it's interesting that Tamala is selling them, because Aurus seems to be the source of where these potions came from. So is Tamala up to something? There is no way to know, because, so currently, at the moment, there is a theory that someone's been trying to disengage the Cosmos Protocol. Someone has done that in this expansion to start. This is how the whole quest line begins. Someone has messed with the system. And there's been some theories. Gathering from, like, the last quest, it was either Asa, Vera, or Tamala. Now, since Tamala is our potion vendor, there's a chance that it's probably not her. But then, of course, there's Vera, which we can probably cross her out because she is the creator of the Gardener, but I don't want to count her out because Vera is basically, Vera knows how to access the Galder systems, so there's a chance that Vera is the reason the Cosmos Protocol was deactivated. And then, of course, there is Asta, the mastermind behind quite literally everything that goes on in the lore behind the cover-ups, which is basically there was like a flow problem in the lore. And Asta is the person that's been covering it up, trying to, you know, not to get people worried, trying to hide everything, basically. It's a whole thing. And then also synthesizing Cosmoflow. Now, when you think about flow, you don't even know where flow comes from, and sounds like it would come from the cosmos, from space. So there's a chance we could. I talked about this a little bit. There's a chance we could be leaving the land of Palia at some point and going to different planets. Like, I don't think we can stay in the same spot forever. I think eventually we're gonna like build something to visit the cosmos and go from there. But again, I don't know. I don't know if Palia is gonna go beyond where we're at currently. But it's interesting. So Aurus is like basically a genius, and he's somehow. It's weird they're introducing. There's so many characters in the lore already, because you got Titus, you got Anima, you got Hephaestus, you got Galen, you got Vetus, which is Titus's dog. You got Asta, Vera. There's so many people. There's the king. The king is mentioned here as well, which is king of I don't know what, Palian Republic, I guess, but that's for another video. We're going to talk about that. There's the gardener. There's Mother, which is Vera. There's Admin 1 and 2. There's some authors. There's Walter W. Hydrox. There's, again, Vera Samaris. There's Herta. And then there's more names mentioned here, but sorry, I'm going on a little rant here, but let's keep going. Instead, he said the taste was refreshing and that he felt slightly more energetic than he had before. Then he patted me on the shoulder. I'm embarrassed to admit it made me blush, but if this new power can lead to a better life for our people, I can handle a little discomfort. And I don't know if Aurus is male or female. There's no clarification here. I'm sure there might be. But who knows? If they try to interview me for the paper again, though, I'm turning them down. And also, I thought within the lore here, I thought there was something. I don't know. I thought there was something with the letters, but it turns out it was just a part of getting the password for the computer. But yeah, and moving on to record number 2, which is on the nature of Cosmoflow. So lecture transcript. So we're going to be learning about Cosmoflow, I guess, in this one. Aurus. There are a few things we know for sure about Cosmoflow, but in order to understand them, one must understand the nature of flow itself. Okay, so it seems like Cosmoflow is it's separate from flow. So Cosmoflow is completely separate from flow. Flow is different. I think flow is like a magic we are not supposed to be using. Cosmoflow is probably a little more stronger. And then let's keep going. I will attempt to explain here, but if any of you have questions, please visit my office afterwards for a more in-depth explanation. Now, can anyone explain what exactly pure flow is? Student A. Raise his hand. Aurus. Yes, you there. Student A. Well, it's a form of energy, right? Natural energy that comes from the flow realm. Realm? Free realms? There's a flow realm. Interesting. Flow realm. That comes from the flow. So there's a source for flow. Okay. Moving on to the next. There's 3 pages here. Aurus. That is correct. There are 2 known realms. Wait. That is correct. There are 2 known realmsars? Realms or what? Who wrote this? Dude, sometimes the spelling or the wording in Palia is so weird. There are 2 known realms. The material realm and the realm of flow. So the material realm, our realm, and then the realm of flow. So the flow realm is probably somewhere in space. I mean, it has to be, right? You may think of these 2 realms as existing on either side of a coin. we exist on the side of mortals, and flow comes from the side of Embra. Can't remember what Embra is. I don't know. That one's I'm a little. I feel like I've heard Embra before, but I don't think I've written it down in the lore. Nah, wasn't like a huge thing. I might write it down now just in case, you know. Let's see, Embra, very cool. Natural flow enters our realm through well springs. Okay. This is what we refer to as pure flow, since it has not been affected or changed by the material world yet. So basically, like, flow. So natural flow is flow that, like, pops up in trees, in, like, Bahari Bay or something like that, I think is what he's trying to talk. So if there's so normal flow, like just regular flow, I'm trying to think if it pops up. I think I've seen it around Elderwood where I don't know if it's flow, but there's stuff floating around. That might just be natural flow. Pure flow is the stuff in trees. It's interesting. Oh, since it's not been changed by the material world yet. Or maybe that's pure flow, and flow is just the stuff that's in trees. I don't know. Flip it around. Student B. What about elemental flow? Aurus. Excellent question. As you all know, everything in our world contains small amounts of flow. As the energy integrates with the material world, it gains one of 4 elemental aspects. Okay, here we go. So before I read this, actually I'll read it. Hydroflow, Pyroflow, Terraflow, and Aeroflow. So, just kind of a recap for you guys in case you're a little behind on the lore. There are people who were in charge of the elemental aspects of flow. And I don't think we've actually seen this flow in action, but basically Galen was in charge of Hydroflow. He was Keeper of Waves. Hephaestus R was in charge. He was in charge of Pyroflow. He was the Keeper of Flames. Anima V was in charge of Aeroflow, the Keeper of Gales. And Titus J was in charge of Terraflow, Keeper of Roots. So there's a couple things to note about Galen. I'm just going to bring this up because it is relevant to what we're talking about right now. Galen and Titus were both employees that worked, I think, for the king or someone in question. But difference between Titus and Galen is Titus was a caretaker for the gardener. So Titus and Veyra worked pretty closely together. And then moving to Hephaestus R. Hephaestus is the one who shut down flow in the first place to kind of prevent a catastrophe, you know? And then Anima was the person who enacted the Cosmos Protocol. Or I think not enacted it, but built it. The person who built it in the first place. So there is a chance that Anima is probably someone who turned it off. I don't know. There's no proof of that, and we don't even know who's alive. Of all these people I've been mentioning, we have no clue. No idea. But let's keep going here. Until recently, we believed these to be the only possible fusions of flow. That is, until it was discovered that through the careful transmutation of all 4 elements, a 5th fusion could be formed. That is cosmoflow. When applied to other simpler forms of elemental flow, it catalyzes their effects to levels heretofore unseen. Wait, do we have to continue to... Oh, unseen. So it cuts off there. Interesting. So cosmoflow is... That's interesting. It's a 5th element. But then, so Aurus is the creator... Okay, so then we have to kind of include this. I guess the human overseer station, I guess we'll make up our own name for it. Cosmoflow. Keeper. So let me go back a little bit. Keeper of what do we want to call him? Keeper of, I don't know, keeper of Cosmos, I guess. I don't know. And what's his Aurus? He's a professor creator. So it's interesting. So he created an element, but we don't actually know who created the other elements like hydroflow, pyroflow, aeroflow, terraflow. No, there's no record of who's created those elements. I don't know if the people who are keepers of those or in charge of those elements took care of or made them, but I'm assuming they were just made on the fly. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. But it's interesting that I mean, maybe Aurus is the one who made all these elements. It's not really telling here, but let's keep going. Student C, it was you who discovered Cosmoflow, wasn't it, Professor? Aurus, well, yes, but discoveries are rarely the result of sole geniuses. I had a team and funding. Student D, I heard you were invited to the royal palace to meet King Moodin. Was he really as handsome as Aurus? I think that's enough questions for now. We finally have a name for the king. King Moodin. We have never had a name for this guy. So, King Moodin. Interesting. I'm assuming Aurus is a female, but again, I could be wrong on this. I usually am wrong, but King of the Palian Republic. And again, we're going to talk about the Palian Republic in a separate video, but I just wanted to kind of bring it up here. Interesting. The one thing I love about the lore right now is they're expanding on stuff that's already been in the lore, which is really cool. Let's move on to record number 3. Cosmoflow applications. Start from day 6. Okay. Day 6. Experiments on Cosmoflow's catalyzing properties continues apace. Terraflow seems the most resistant to extreme change, but Hydroflow accepts the application of Cosmoflow as easily as anything else. Interesting. So they're basically trying to combine Terraflow with Cosmoflow, but it seems resistant. I mean, it makes sense. It's Earth, Terraflow. I don't think it's going to accept change easily, but Hydroflow is air, so accepts it. This is interesting. So they're trying to just test what they can do with the... This is probably what caused chaos in the first place. Let's keep going. When formulated into an ingestible hydro potion, and I don't know what hydro potions are, man. Like, I might write this down. Hydro potion. Don't know what it is, but I guess we'll find out. The standard rejuvenating qualities appear to be multiplied. I have tried some of this new Cosmo drink myself, and was up half the night working on a new project before the effects wore off. There appears to be a few side effects of consuming the concoction. It tastes vaguely of citrus with a pleasant natural carbonation. It's like soda. But so Tamala's selling these potions. Like I said, I'm not going to speculate here, but I could. It seems like Tamala could be Aurus under a different name, but there's no way to know that, because assuming that Aurus is the one who made these hydro potions, how is Tamala selling them? You know, there's something going on there. I don't know, but let's keep going. Day 78, so we jumped, what, like 62 days? Wait, is that right? No. My math's off. 8 from... I'm trying to... So... Is it from 72 days we jumped? That's crazy. Day 78. I think I may have discovered the key to immortality. Oh, we're going crazy. That's cool. An injection into the dermal layer of Cosmoflow catalyzed hydroflow provides more lasting effects of elevated energy, increased concentration, and improved health. But applied in specific rune forms, okay, runes are mentioned here, because I have a runestone written down. It is hard to prove in such a short amount of time, but the aging of the subject of me appears to have stopped entirely. I think I know what Cosmoflow is doing, and I don't want to be quoted on this, but it seems like Cosmoflow is how the Majiri were made. And I could be wrong. I could be so wrong on that. But like if this is Aurus talking, I'm assuming. If Aurus discovered the key to immortality and just suddenly discovered a way to live forever, that's interesting. And again, we don't know if this is going to be the case. We don't know if this is an entirely different thing, but seems like that could be happening. Let's keep going. More research needs to be done before I bring this to anyone else, even the other scientists at the lab. I was only able to apply the runes to a small area of skin, and I have not given enough time to record any possible side effects. If everything goes to plan, I'll bring it to Mooden soon. Perhaps the next time he stops by for tea. So, something interesting here. I'm just gonna make a note. King. Okay. So I don't know if this is the case. But I think King Mooden and Aurus had something going on, like a relationship. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But it's weird. Even though we have the king's name finally, we know zero about this guy. There's no lore on him. There's nothing. He doesn't talk any of the lore, like, tabs or anything like that. It's weird. It's so weird, man. And I'm trying to figure out, like, what... There's got to be something on him in this expansion. Like, there has to be. Or we go to the capital and that's how we get lore on him. But either way, let's keep moving on to record number 4, Ministry Visit. Day 879. It's like 801 days have passed. That's crazy. The Minister of Flow. Wait, who is that? The Minister of Flow. That's new. Okay, no, that's been mentioned before. So the Minister of Flow isn't a new person, but it has been mentioned. I'm assuming... Okay, I think I know why I wrote it down under Asta. Asta is the Minister of Flow. I'm pretty sure. So that's interesting that the Minister of Flow is brought up here. But Asta's the one who covers everything up, so... it's interesting. Let's keep going. The Minister of Flow visited our facility today. She asked to meet me privately. Apparently there are some tensions at the southern border, and she wanted to inquire about various practical applications of Cosmoflow. She wants me to make weapons. I asked if General Sadil knew she was here, and she brushed the question off. Okay, new character. This is interesting. General Sadil. I'm assuming we're going to hear more about Sadil because in some lore entries that I discovered playing through the expansion, it might include him. I don't know, but interesting. Then she asked me about my mother and whether she was still in the memory care facility. The implications were clear. Okay, so interesting. So, why am I blanking on the name? Aurus's mother is mentioned, which I don't think has any important implications other than, like, maybe Aurus is using Cosmoflow on her own mother, which is wild. But let's keep going. We always knew this would come. Security clearance at the facility has been extreme from the founding of it. I trust everyone here with my life, and my mother's. I told her we couldn't grind other projects to a stop for this. All of Valeria relies on the catalyzed flow from our lab. Okay. For some reason, Valerian, another Free Realms implication there. You just took out the N. Crazy. One thing we do know, we know where the location of the Palian Republic is, which, again, we'll talk about later. But, so Valeria is where the Palian Republic is. I'm wondering if we're going to go there. Or if it's still a place. We don't know. But let me write that down, Valeria. Thinking of Valeria and the Palian Republic. Okay, interesting. So all of Valeria relies on the catalyzed flow from our lab. So I'm wondering if these lore entries were written before they went to war. They went to war with Flo. It seems like this is before that, but I don't know. Anyway, let's keep going. Day 1024. Experiments on weaponizing Cosmoflow are proceeding as safely as they can without putting anyone at risk. Okay. Interestingly, Minister Vera herself has volunteered to be a test subject, especially regarding a project on hydroflow serum. Okay, so something that's interesting. So Vera's the Minister of Flow. That's wait, is Vera? No, Vera's the creator of the Gardener. But maybe Vera is the Minister of Flow, and Asta's just the one covering up all the stuff. I don't know. No, yeah, Vera's the Minister of Flow. Interesting. So maybe, okay, see, this is why I say, like, Asta or Vera could have been the one doing this. There's so many connections. Wow. Okay. I declined as politely as I was able to. She is already covered in hydroform runes for immortality. Any more Cosmoflow in her body could prove disastrous. Okay, so Vera was willing to sacrifice herself. That's crazy, because they're trying to go to war here. The serum itself is interesting. Instead of immortality, it imbues the subject with physical strength, speed, analytical ability, but their emotional core and social skills suffer greatly in response. As for the other substances, I have managed to resist proceeding with those experiments for the moment. So Aurus is both a professor and a scientist, which is interesting in itself, because that means Aurus is a huge character in the lore here. But yeah, I don't know. Let's keep going here, because we got a few more records to look at. Record number 5, Mirror Protocol. Okay, so the Mirror Protocol, I guess there's like a lunar connection. The Mirror Protocol is basically, it has something to do with the moon, I guess. Which is weird, but I don't know what it's about. I wish these visits from important people that changed the trajectory of my work would stop. It's been 2.5 centuries since this facility was founded, and yet the headaches refuse to abate. This time it was Moonin. The man always has an air of somber gravitas around him in public, but we've been working together too long for that, which told me this was not a social call. The flow is running out. Interesting. They were losing flow. It's my fault. Moonin didn't say that. In fact, he was insistent on shouldering all the blame, but we both know it's the Cosmoflow. Creating it requires a vast amount of raw flow, even more in the application. I don't know why it never occurred to me that flow could run out. Were we really consuming so much? Is there no way to reverse our course? So it seems like Aurus is the reason everything went bad, which is interesting because Asa being the one that's covering up all the flow, or even Vera, we didn't know who was responsible for doing all this. This is the person. So it begs the question: is Aurus the one responsible for deactivating the Cosmos protocol? There's no way to know. Let's keep going. That's why he came, to ask my help in finding an alternate power source. He told me he believes one exists, that there is a third plane, and we only need access it. That Cosmoflow could be the key to ripping across the veil and opening the tap. He calls it the Mirror Protocol. He's asked me to join him in reaching through the looking glass to the other side. Okay. Interesting. So the Mirror Protocol is essentially a way of opening to another plane? Okay. Opening a third plane. Interesting. Okay. I'm not sure why he bothered asking, frankly. Either we allow society to collapse or we find another way to power it. I've done it once before, so it should be easy to do it again. At least that's what I told him. I think he'll visit my mother tonight. It's been too long. Dude, the lore here is really cool. It's really interesting. This is a long lore reading, but we got to go over everything, because if we don't, we're never going to get through it. Let's keep going. Record number 6. Cosmos Protocol. I always thought I would know the day the world ended. It turns out it happens in inches until salvation is too far to see on the horizon anymore. One by one, my colleagues leave the lab. They all say the same thing. We should have never crossed the veil. It's not that I disagree. It's just that if I accepted it's too late, I'll turn into one of them. The hope will seep from me and nothing will be able to plug the leak. So I hold tight to the thought that there's still something we can do, and I keep looking. So Aurus is both the reason that everything was going bad, but also the reason that things were turning around a little bit. So it seems like King Munin is the one who invented the Mirror Protocol. And maybe Aurus is the one who invented the Cosmos Protocol. It's not really clear, but we still got 2 more pages, so let's read it. The world is still fighting. The Empire... Wait, so... The Empire of... Interesting. So Valeria is an empire. It's... Okay. So it's not the Palian Republic. The world is still fighting. The Empire of Valeria holds strong. Galder and human repel the monsters everywhere, but they can barely touch the creatures from across the rift. So, okay. So Galder and human fought together. They weren't fighting against each other, but there are monsters. At some point, man, we're going to be fighting something that I feel like Palia is slowly moving into a combat game. And it's not that, because there was only hunting and that's the only combat thing. But Palia is slowly moving towards a game where we can fight. And that would be interesting if we did do that. Because the lore here is talking about humans and Galder fighting together against monsters. And I wish there were specifics or visuals we could see of these monsters, but that takes time to work on, but let's look at this. Let's keep going. So I'm working on a staff. It takes ambient flow and synthesizes it into Cosmoflow. I don't expect it to do much about the rifts, but perhaps it will be able to keep some of the creatures at bay. So rifts. So monsters poured in from whatever plane they opened. And we're okay, so now we're kind of going to that present timeline of where Galen, Hephaestus, Anima, and Titus are. Um, so rifts. So rifts, monsters, such creatures. Versus humans slash Galders. If we can fight back, we can still stop this. If it works, we'll make more. And one thing I want to point out here, sorry. The fact that Aurus is the reason that there's a staff there. That staff in the middle where all the bundles are, that's Aurus's staff. Aurus made that thing to stop all of this. That's crazy, man. That's crazy lore. In honor of Muden's love for ominously named projects, we're calling it the Cosmoflow Protocol. So that's what the staff is. Okay. In order to keep random survivors from stumbling on this facility, it will be locked away. So Aurus was in that area that we were at with Sabira. That's interesting. The other overseers have all agreed, and the security measures installed. Funny thing, they didn't even know I existed before Vera made the introductions. That's wild. Because the overseers basically stay in their stations. They don't leave. So Vera made the inductions. The Minister of Flow was keeping Aurus a secret. That's interesting. Because Galen, Hephaestus, Anema, and Titus, they've all had their own stories throughout the beginning of Palia. The fact that they didn't know Aurus is wild. That's crazy. But now we're bleeding into storylines here, which is cool. I like that a lot. We got one more page here on number 6. Let's keep going. I only hope I can finish this research in time. At least the energy crisis is resolved. Well, I mean, look at the positives, I guess. But let's move on to record number 7. Goodbye for Now. I love that title because this is the end of the records. My mother used to tell me stories of the Phoenix, how she defeated the Abyss and brought light to the world. Okay, so this is new. Phoenix beats the Abyss and brought light to the world. That during the battle in the void, she received a mortal wound and dragged the darkness with her. Phoenix receives wound and dragged the darkness with her. Her heart formed the sun, her eyes the moons. Interesting. I'm not going to write all this down. I feel like it's not super important, but I thought about it. Her feathers became blades of grass. Okay, so the Phoenix is basically the thing that created the world. Okay. And through her blood ran the rivers of the world. Finally, from her soul came humanity. And through our fervent prayer and love, she was reborn again. Mother thought that, as her children, all of us were capable of the same rebirth. That even in our failures, we could bring the light. Maybe I should have asked Moonin about it before he disappeared. Oh, so the king did disappear. I'm wondering if he's alive somewhere. I don't know. Probably not, but who knows? I failed. He'd like to know the truth. I failed. Humanity failed. We can't even lay claim to defeating the Abyss this time. I'm afraid it will swallow us all. Oh, it says goodbye for now. So, again, there is a chance that Aurus is alive. Maybe. Like, maybe we'll run into Aurus at some point. We might see all of these characters come back. We don't know. But let's keep going. But if it doesn't, if there is still hope in some distant future, if you're reading this and the sun still rises, Free Realm Sunrise, that's a callback. We love that. People still laugh and cry and hurt and yell like they used to here. And maybe we do get another chance at this. I hope that my fervent prayer reaches you, and you are reborn. I hope the world is brighter where you are, and that if the darkness threatens you like it did us, you fight harder, love stronger, and never lose hope. You carry the flame of our people with you, and that will never go out. I'm going to take a walk. I hope the sunrise, Free Realm Sunrise, we're piecing things together. Little references. I hope the sunrise is still as breathtaking in your future as it always has been for us. Password for the facility's administrative command is spread across these logs. Use it well, or don't use it at all. Aurus. So, that's all the logs. That's all of them. That's the story of Aurus. That's crazy. It's wild that Aurus both started the chaos of everything and tried to save it. That is wild. I love that the stories bled together and we got kind of a conclusive thing. It's cool. There is one more entry, though, that we got to go over, which it's not anything crazy, but it is some new names and characters. And we're going to go over this real quick. So, Antonia. And this is kind of like a lunch list. It's weird. It's a Friday lunch order. Sabira gave us this this weird and it's nothing crazy at all. But there's names. So Antonia. I don't know who that is. I don't know if that's someone who's worked at the facility. I'm assuming some of these people are people who worked at the facility. So Antonia, we know who Aurus is. Octavian, and then Freya. We know who Vera is, and then there's me. A promotion, please. So, who is me? Because this is one that I don't really get. Like, I don't know who wrote on this, because these all came from Aurus. So, the only person like that would make sense is it's either it could be Asta, it could be any of the Overseer people. It really could be anyone. It could be General Sadil. There's no way to know who that is. But given all the people that were mentioned, again, it could be anyone. But that is the end of freaking the Records of Aurus, which I like the story a lot. I like that it kind of concluded things a little bit. But obviously, there's still more that we need to find out. There's still more that we need to know. And we're going to go through more lore over the coming weeks. But anywho, that is going to be a video for today. But thank you guys for watching, hanging out. I appreciate it a ton. I will see you guys in the next lore video. And yeah, goodbye.